Welcome back to the Habit-Based Lifestyle Podcast. I'm your host, Jesse Ewell, and today I have a very special guest. My beautiful wife is back in studio.
What's up?
And she's talking about the Pussy Podcast and how it rhymes. And I'm still...
I didn't mean rhyme. I meant like two P's together, like how it just sounded
so
good.
Two P's is
I was
rhyme.
practicing my announcing. Welcome back. This is your host, Katie Ewell, and I'm here with
Go ahead and take it over.
No, that's okay. Go ahead.
Go ahead. Finish.
No. I'm your host, Katie Ewell, and today we are talking about...
Marriagehood.
Marriagehood.
So, Marriagehood is launching today. This is our actual marriage boot camp that we are going to be putting on here in beautiful Dana Point, California, June 23rd and 24th. We have co-created this event together for married couples to finally come together and gather in one place and begin working on their lives together. And one of the things that we are passionate about is I have been in a brotherhood. Katie has been in.
We are currently in.
Okay, we are currently in sisterhood. But one of the things that we found out over the last 4.5 years was it got us to a certain place, being in this brotherhood and being in this sisterhood. But as one of the things that I noticed is I started to tell my brothers more than I told my wife. And then I also felt like at times Katie was telling her sisters more than she was telling me, and yet we were both telling everybody what was going on, but we weren't really coming back and making sure each other knew what was going on. And so it actually felt like we were telling each other, but we actually weren't.
Well, definitely, like talking, but not only talking, but, you know, setting these outcomes and these targets and life goals and holy crap, like huge accomplishments. And we would set them and we would share them within these, within like with my sisters and your brothers. And then maybe if there was time some night, we'd be like, so, hey, like, what are your 90-day goals? And it's like, it created this gap almost of not only communication, but connection. And yeah, it's like, how do we bridge this? How do we come together? And I know that we are not alone in this. It's a huge thing. I mean, Jesse being, and with his brotherhood and me having my sisterhood and watching, the men rise and then the women be like, hey, like, where am I? Like, you're almost like chasing behind or in this stuck place, and it can create a huge issue in your marriage. And then also with the women as well, they're on calls, they're working with their sisters, but a lot of times, the pain and whatnot that's coming from marriage was shared with the sisters, but not with your husband. And it's like you're working it out with your sisterhood or your brotherhood, but when really, a lot of it comes down to working it out with your spouse or that connection and creation with your spouse.
Okay, so let's talk about this. So one of the things that I noticed, especially for you, and I don't know if you felt this exact same way, but as you got into a sisterhood, if you just notice right here, we have a little bit of a gap. And I want to paint this out as simple as possible. If you don't know what targets and outcomes are, just think of them as goals. And I want to make this as simple as possible because a lot of people may not know what those mean. But as I would get into this brotherhood, I would have these conversations with men all the time. And one of the things that I noticed is I didn't really notice I was on the phone that much. I didn't really notice I was talking to them that much. I just thought it was normal. And then the day that it switched and it became Katie, I remember like, what the hell? Like, seriously, like, hey, I'm over here. Do you remember me? And then one day I stopped and said, I wonder if I was like that when I was deep into the brotherhood. And so I asked, and Katie's like, we're like that. You still are like that. But I remember what I felt like the day that I realized that, hey, my wife's now communicating with these women, and as good as it is, it's almost like, well, what about me? Are we going to talk about this stuff too? And I don't know if you felt that way, but that's something that I know couples go through is just because you're in a brotherhood, just because you're in a sisterhood, there's still a gap here. And we still have to come back and begin communicating together and sharing together. Otherwise, it's still separate.
Definitely. And you know, there are things you can get from your brotherhood and I can get from my sisterhood that we can't give each other. And I remember when you joined Warrior, and that was I was like, oh my gosh, thank the Lord. Like, I felt like I had prayed for Garrett for years, and it was like, he's there, and you have this mentor and this connection, because there are definitely things a wife can tell her husband that he doesn't hear. And so you need to hear that. But at the same time, I can remember, like it was yesterday when we had it's probably one of the biggest collisions in our marriage. I can remember one of the first videos I did was in our closet, and we were in a huge fight because I'm like, this is all part of Marriagehood too. Jossie's in here watching a video, but I was like, I just don't know if I can do this. How the hell are we going to grow together? Because here are two of us wanting to rise, but now I'm in it, and he's like, where's me? And I'm like, I don't know what to do. I don't know. And it was painful. It was like, I thought you'd support me. I thought this is something you'd want, but it's scary because now I have this group and I'm rising and I am going somewhere else. And so obviously it took time. And it was actually one of the things that created the biggest collision, but it also was one of the things that brought us the closest together, was when we started talking about that and we were able to share and open up. And it wasn't just about, hey, what are you feeling and why are you? And not that you didn't want me to grow. It's just like, it was new and it was different. It was scary. And you had been the one doing it for so long, and now it was kind of like my turn.
Right. I think of it as this. We have energy in our household, and you have a certain type of energy, and I have a certain type of energy. And when those get out of vibration, the home becomes affected, our relationship becomes affected. And so as I grew inside of our home, inside of the brotherhood, your energy, and you got used to my energy, I got used to your energy, and then all of a sudden, you go through Warrior Woman, you go through, you went through a few other programs, and just like I did, but as you did this, your energy changed. You came home in a different vibration, and I'm like, well, what the hell happened to my wife? But what it was is our energy had shifted. You came home with this different energy, and I was like, well, what the hell is this? And so we had to figure out a way to work together, and just think of like, if you had, different energy, and all of a sudden you bring this in, you have this different energy around you, and you collide with this energy, it kind of creates chaos, maybe like a thunderstorm, I could put it. And so that was a storm that we had went through, and out of it, once the thunder stopped, and once we got past kind of the initial surface level stuff, we got down to what was really going on. And so, I think when you talk about marriages, you can talk about energy of each other, and how that changes as we grow. But if only one person's growing, even when two people are growing, if we don't match the energy, or at least adjust to that energy, there's conflict.
Well, for sure. And we had the same thing go on. And for you, when you came home from Warrior, I can still remember. I'm like, who are you? Like, who the hell are you? What are you wearing? What are you doing? Like, what happened to my husband? But if I start to think, like, where else does this show up? It's like going to the gym and being on fire and having this workout and coming home and being like, all right, I'm home, guys. And everyone looks at you like, the kids are like, oh, what's going on? And, you just, you have this fire burning inside of you. And I think the other huge part of it, it's respecting for us, because we were going through a very similar, warrior. We were being taught very same, values and codes and principles and beliefs. And you had walked through this and now it was almost like, who are you kind of to tell me? Because literally I started to say, it just like part of the coaching comes out, and as you're walking through it, you're kind of like asking your husband, and it's like
basically I was getting cross-checked, like, hey, where are you doing this? And then that would turn into, that's not exactly how you do that. And so it was like I started to push my beliefs inside of Warrior, my agenda inside of Warrior onto Katie. And then Katie, so like even though we may learn the same thing, we may be at different parts of that or interpret it differently. And just because of that, then it's kind of like, you didn't learn that the right way, or maybe you're not doing this the right way. And that was where a lot of the conflict came in. But that was just the surface level stuff. That wasn't the deeper issue. The deeper issue is we weren't communicating with each other. And that's where the real gap is inside of, this is, you may want to grow as a husband, as a man, as a father, and your wife may want to grow as a wife, as a mother, and you may go to these separate things, but I think where the issue lied is once you've done that, it's kind of like, okay, well, what's next? And it's like, you have to actually begin to come together.
Right. And where's the support, like in a sense too? Because for you, and I believe, it's my belief that the man, leads and can rise first. Like that was how we did it in our marriage. Not to say that's right, but at some point you both have to, but I know then it was like, okay, well, where's my support system? You know what I mean? And
right.
and then when we started, and then when I went through it, and it took a lot of processing, but it was also us sitting down and talking about valuing what you took out of it and what I took out of it, and knowing that we are not going to have the exact same. What you get as a man and in your brotherhood, I am going to relate to my life and our relationship and me as a CEO mom so differently. So when we could bridge those values, it was like fireworks. It was like, holy shit, this is a whole nother level. Here we have a brotherhood and here we have but bringing it together, yeah. It was like, oh my gosh,
And I also like to think of it this, I had, coached you as a trainer where you had worked out with other women. And so I was used to, in a sense, coaching you in fitness, but then at times I would cross over that boundary and want to coach you in other ways. And that would be where a lot of conflict would happen. And I would, instead of asking for permission, hey, who do you want me to show up as, your husband or your coach? I would just insert myself as the coach because I'd already went through everything that you had for years, and you also learned a lot, from that. But also, I inserted myself as a coach, and when I did that without asking, then that's usually when we had major conflict.
Right, because we may just want to be heard,
right.
And I may just want to be validated that, wow, look at this growth within me. Let's celebrate this.
Right.
And yeah, that's huge. But now, as it's come, it blows my mind. And I was just sharing with a girlfriend, I've hired you now as a coach. I've gone through, but hiring you, and now it's I was telling, my trainer today, I can't wait to get on these calls and hear what you have to say and be coached, because I value that, and that's what I want.
Right.
And I see that in you, and I see you living it. And so it's just a whole different dynamic in a sense. But then when we started manifesting and talking about this marriagehood, it was like, holy shit, what you have as a coach and I have, in everything, that I'm passionate about in marriage. And we started podcasting, like, just to feed off each other. Like, it was, we were, let's go. Like, we have just been nonstop, passionate and excited about bringing this.
Yeah, and I think what's actually brought us together is our habits, not only as a couple, but also, with our other business that we sold with our family. And so as we began living this habit-based lifestyle out loud together, what we created out of that was something completely different where we could both step into with our unique gifts and unique values and begin to launch this.
Well, and another huge thing within the core habits and coming together as husband and wife, we are both very
different.
Competitive. We're very competitive. So a lot of the time I felt like, oh, did you hit your core 4 today? Oh, have you done this? Oh, and it was like this competition for us. But when we brought it together to do together and to celebrate together, and holy, crap, like for it was like we were celebrating each other and working together on it, and not only working together, but pushing each other and celebrating each other. And so that was a huge shift as well. So, definitely the habits that we've created and implemented, but not only in habit-based lifestyle, but within our family, with the kids.
Right.
So, yeah.
And I think if we look at this is as a married couple, as all of this happens, I think the foundation of any married couple is you have to start out by telling the truth about where you are currently at, whether that's in your marriage, in your sex life, in your intimacy. And that is number one. The truth becomes number one. And before actually the truth, we have to stop lying about where we're at. And so people often skip the importance of that. Because if I don't stop lying, how can I actually begin to tell the truth? And so that is the foundation of where we actually take people to, because people think they're telling the truth until they actually realize that they've been telling a lie to themselves. And so one of the key things inside of this is we believe that we are telling the truth until we actually realize that we've been lying. And once we realize that, then we can begin to tell the truth.
Well, and let's be honest, that's scary. That's talk about standing naked on a stage. Like, even with your husband, when we first started talking about, like, even our sex life and we actually did like a sex experiment, a sex.
We've done that a few times.
But it was like these questions of, what does please you? What do you like? And it's like, we're 14 years married, and we would look at each and just be like, oh my gosh, but like that type of connection and open communication and being able to be honest is huge. But I also believe when you share that with other couples and you're able to come in and kind of share, because I feel like women have a similar, take on stuff, and men, the community and the safeness is also huge. But yeah, when we were able to really open up and talk about even our love languages, and not doing something that definitely, was my love language, but that was for you, and you to say to me, hey, like, I want to be touched. Like, these cards are great, but this isn't doing anything for me. And also it's me taking that feedback and not getting like, oh my God, like that hurts my feelings, but being like, this is truth. And I can either take it and be like, okay, like cards maybe are my love language, but like this is what my husband needs. And I think a lot of married couples, like, it seems so simple, but they just don't know. They don't have that avenue. They don't have those tools, those habits to know this is how you can take your marriage to another level.
Yeah, I think if we go back to this, is many of the things that we teach and many of the things that are taught inside a habit-based lifestyle, inside of Marriagehood, they are simple, because if they weren't simple, you wouldn't actually do them. The problem is people take simple for granted. And as couples, it is really simple to leave your wife a message. It is really simple to leave your wife a video. The question is, are you more committed to the reason and excuse why you won't, or are you more committed to actually doing it? Because they both require a commitment. And they also both require consistency. So you can be just as consistent at doing the wrong thing as you can be consistent at doing the right thing. So why not look at that and say, well, what is the result that I want? And once I know the result that I want, then it becomes a much different decision.
Wow, like you're like kind of passionate about that. Like you should check your heart rate monitor because you like got really loud and excited. But I get it, and
I am excited.
Okay, but it's so true. Like, yeah, I don't really have anything to say, but like.
It's true, and we're gonna keep talking as soon as I open the door.
But yeah, I mean, when you commit to, you know, we all say I want a great marriage, or you can say you want a great marriage, or I even get with couples and it's just not working. Like he just doesn't get it, or oh, he would never do that, or what. But it's like let's turn around and like almost look at ourselves and like, is what you're doing working? Are you committed? Like as a wife, I had to do that. You know, Jesse started with his, you know, habits way prior to me, you know, and when he started and, you know, it was like, wow, I need to take a look in the mirror and see what I'm doing for my marriage. Cause it's not 50-50. It's 100% and 100%.
100% equals 200%. Equals just going all in. So one of the things I want to touch base on is a lot of wives seem to come up with this story of he just doesn't get it. And what I would say to that is...
Actually, let me say this because I'm the wife. You can follow up really quick. Okay. Hold on. But I just don't want to lose my train of thought here. Like, he doesn't get it because you don't tell him. Like, I feel like that's one of the biggest issues in marriage. Like, oh man, Mother's Day sucked. Like, he didn't do anything for me. Great. Did you tell him what you wanted? Like, that took me a few years in our marriage. It's like, you should just know. You should know how I want to be loved. You should know the gift I want. But, like, ask for it. Ask for what you want. Like, it goes both ways. But don't say he doesn't know or he doesn't show up or he's just not. I mean... it's not him, it's you. Are you communicating? Are you asking for that? Because when I started asking, I started getting.
Yeah. So the biggest thing I was gonna say with that, and it goes along with what you say, is I don't even remember what the word was, but it was something like he doesn't get it. He doesn't get it because you haven't told him what you want. And so really when you say he doesn't get it, is like you're not being clear about where you are in your marriage and what you actually want. And so you live in this world of false expectations of he doesn't get it. And he doesn't get it because you haven't told him what you wanted. It's not because he doesn't get it. You can train your husband to know exactly what you want, and I don't even want to say train, but you can actually tell him exactly what you want, and the minute you tell him that, you have a 50-50 shot at getting that. If you don't tell him and you live in this world of expectations, you have less than a 1% chance of getting that. So would you rather have the 50%, or would you rather have the 1% and complain and be in the same place in your marriage? And
this is just an example as we sit here and share it. This is Marriagehood. This is what it's about. These are the topics. This is the tools. This is the value that we want to bring to you because we live it. We have lived it. And we are so passionate about it and sharing it and being completely vulnerable and saying, hey, we get it. You know, and you do, it really, communication was our biggest thing. I love to talk. Jesse is not necessarily a talker. I feel like, he talks a lot in his head, but I'm like, I don't know what's going on. And so we tend to say he has the fire on the inside and I have the fire on the outside. So I have to go to him and say, babe, I don't have any idea where you're at or what you're thinking, and you need to You need to tell me. You need to share that with me. But again, yeah, to just take that, to make it a home run and just say, like, ask for what you want. There is nothing wrong with asking. And it is a 50-50. And if he doesn't do it for yourself.
Yeah, and I think he will do it if you tell him what you want.
Oh, yeah.
I think eventually he will, or eventually he'll figure out that, hey, I'm not giving my wife what she wants, what she's asking for. And wives, stop sugarcoating what you actually want. Husbands, stop, pretending you're telling your wife exactly what you want, and actually sit down and write out some things that you actually want. And if you can't get to that place, then come be a part of Marriagehood.
Well, and I also, this is something that just came to my heart, but we also have to remember that, like, our husband is showing up as the best version of himself, and we are in this marriage together to rise and create and be committed to one another, to walk through it and share and grow together. So if he just doesn't know and he's showing up as the best version of himself, why not say, hey, babe, like, I would love this. And same goes for wives. Like, we're doing the best job that we can being your wife. So if there's something that you want or you need, tell us.
Yeah, and I can think of a lot of times before where I had this story built up that made you almost like, it was like I was going to talk to this giant, and I had this fear built up and this anxiety, and I'm like, shit, she's like smaller than me, she's about the same height as me, and she's my wife, yet I had this story built up that you were, you might as well have been 10 feet tall and 300 pounds of muscle, because I had the same fear as maybe talking to somebody like that. And so I want to put that out there, because we often have fears of our wife, of our spouse, of our husband, and they're just fears and stories that we've actually built up.
Well, and I remember you telling me that. And, I really think what it comes down to, because for me, I was terrified of the collision. I was terrified of you getting mad, and here's another fight. I'm going to cry again. This is going to be painful. But what we've learned is that on the other side of that fight is growth.
Yeah.
So I truly believe that you were okay with, because you would come to me, and I'm a very passionate speaker and I get excited. And so you would come to me and we'd have this battle. And I almost think that 10-foot giant was this battle and this fight, but we definitely are okay. We're definitely okay with that battle and that fight now. And another thing, having Jocelyn here, let's just get this out here, because this came to me. I can remember growing up and my parents not fighting around us. And so from the beginning, I remember thinking, oh my gosh, like, we can't fight in front of our kids, or I can't say how I feel when, are you kidding me? Like, they need to see that. This is life. This is how it is. And brothers and sisters fights, and mom and dads fight too. But just like brothers and sisters, we make up and we move forward and we grow from it. And I think some of our biggest fights have become some of our biggest victories.
Biggest breakthroughs.
Okay, breakthrough victory.
Some of our biggest fights have been some of our biggest breakthroughs, our biggest victories.
Yeah, and truly, when we sat down talking about Marriagehood and what we wanted, it's like, let's do this.
All right, so let's do this. Let's wrap this up.
Yeah, okay.
Give us one thing as we close this out, like one big thing.
It's okay to ask for what you want. Like, if you want the handbag, the shoes, the massage, the time to yourself, to go to the movies, I mean, ask. No, your husband can't read your mind. Your wife can't read your mind. Ask for it.
Okay, you heard it first. So ask your wife, ask your husband, if you can come to Marriage Boot Camp and be challenged and changed at the same time. One of the cool things that we're going to be doing here is we're going to be stripping away everything that you've known between each other and getting to the root of the problems going on in your life, and really being able to rebuild from that place a new foundation and a new identity as a couple. And I can't think of a more powerful way to do that than side by side with my wife and several other couples.
I love how you said challenge change, but I'm going to add, but you must be chosen. Like, this is a very sacred movement and community that we want to create. And so you must be chosen. So there's an application process. We want to know you're committed. You know, I mean, you're going all in. You're not.
So if you're listening to this, in the show notes on the podcast, there may very well be no spots left by the time you get this. But if there is, there will be an actual link inside the application, and you can fill that out, and then you will get into a one-on-one conversation with myself and Katie to make sure that you guys are the right fit and we are the right fit for you, because the last thing that we want is to just bring in anybody and have them mess up what we are creating. And also for us to make sure that we are going to give you and support you in the way that you guys must be supported as a couple. So thank you for being on here. If you are looking to connect further with a group of like-minded couples, like-minded people, join myself and so many others in the Habit-Based Lifestyle Secrets group on Facebook. This is where we'll be talking about tips, tricks, hacks, habits that will begin transforming your lifestyle and get you to live to your full potential. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, maybe you want to leave us a review, email me, jesse@habitbasedlifestyle.com. You can also check out my website, Jesse, JESSEEWELL.
And wives, if you don't feel comfortable reaching
.com.
out to him, I'm on Instagram or Facebook and just under Katie Ewell.
Well, actually, it's Katie@habitbasedlifestyle.com.
Oh, well, I need access to that email, please.
Okay. Until next episode, have a great day.